Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about compression. When data is transmitted across the internet, it will go through many different physical links between routers. We mean by physical links that is an electronic connection between two devices. The connection from a computer or a LAN into the internet is likely to be the slowest part of this route. At home, you may have quite a slow network connection, and it may take a while for web pages to load. One way of speeding up the rate at which files can be transmitted across the internet is to compress them to make them smaller. Smaller file size takes less time to transmit over a network. So compression is used in order to reduce the amount of storage needed on computer to save files. The second one is to allow large files to be transmitted as an email attached. Many email servers limit the size of a file that can be sent, and compression can reduce the file size, allow users to send the file. And the last one is to allow a file to be transmitted in less time, owing to the smaller file size. There are two types of compression. The first one is lossy compression. Is data encoding method where files are compressed by removing some of the detail. For example, photographs can be stored using fewer colors, so fewer bits are needed per pixel. This type of compression is used to compress images, audio files, and video files, where it's easy to recognize an image or sound clip even if some data is missing. So reduction of file size can also be achieved by reducing the color depth from 24-bit color to 8-bit color. Here we have two photos that are the same. The first one has color depth 24-bit color, and the second one is the same but has 80-bit color. The second picture is compressed, so when sending the second picture, it will be quicker than sending the first picture because it's compressed. The second type is lossless compression. This is a data encoding method where files are compressed, but no data is lost, an essential factor for text and data files. For example, bank records must keep all of the data. You cannot transmit a bank statement and miss out a few zeros. So you can compress data files, for example, by zipping them using a utility program such as WinZip, before attaching them to an email. So, when compressing a file, the data is sent in a short period of time. Compression software, such as WinZip, will reduce the size of a file. There are two types of compression known as lossy and lossless. Lossy compression can be used in photos where some detail is lost, but this will be undetectable when viewed on screen. While lossless compression is used on text files where it has to be possible to restore the file exactly. So zipped or compressed files can be transmitted much more quickly over the internet. Sometimes there's a limit to the size of a file which can be transmitted. Example, if you have a 15 megabyte document, you will not be able to email it to a friend if there is a 10 megabyte limit on the attachments they can receive. Even if they can receive the file, it may take several minutes to download if they don't have a broadband connection. So compressing files using a data compression utility such as WinZip is that several files can be compressed into a single zip file. They can then be transmitted, moved, or stored as a single compressed file rather than as several separate files. Now we will take a quick revision about our lesson.
Especially video, a little loss of quality might not be too noticeable, and therefore it's considered an acceptable compromise of quality versus file size and download time. Here we can see two images, and it would be hard to tell that one is an original file and the other is compressed and has a significantly lower file size. Another approach is not to lose any data at all. This is known as lossless compression, and it uses completely different algorithms. For example, in our original image of a butterfly, we can see that there are larger areas of white pixels. Instead of storing every pixel with the same binary pattern, we could encode our data differently, perhaps by storing the binary for the colour white and the number of white pixels in a row before the colour changes. Encoding data in this way would reduce the file size, but would only be effective on images with larger areas of the same colour. This makes it a suitable algorithm for cartoons and clip art, but ineffective with photographs where there are fewer blocks of colour. It's important to realise that the type of data will determine what types of compression can be used. For example, with executable program files, we can't afford to lose a single command in the program, and therefore only lossless compression will work. This is also true of documents. It's really only with pictures and sound where lossy compression is applicable, but it usually gives the highest returns in file size reduction. So let's summarise the key points. Compression reduces the number of bits in a file, making the storage capacity of the file lower, and the data transfer of the file quicker. This is useful because more data can be stored on a storage device and transferred in a smaller amount of time. There are two types of compression, lossy compression and lossless compression. With lossy compression, some of the data is lost and cannot be recovered, greatly reducing the file size. This reduces the quality of the image or sound, and it's suitable really only for images, sound and video. It can't be used on text and executable files. With lossless compression, none of the data is lost because it's encoded in a different way. Therefore, you can turn it back into its original format, and it can be used on all types of data. But it's usually less effective than lossy compression at reducing the file size, and it's mostly suitable for documents and executable files.